to feel it right. Never have the words, I can't explain it. Every time I run, I know you're waiting. Everything you do, I can't contain it. You got me, giving all I got cause I know you're worth it. Giving all of me cause you deserve it. I want you to know I think you're perfect. You're perfect. Nothing matters, nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Nothing matters, nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Let me put it like this. I need you in my life. Gotta readjust my sights. Had a swing and a miss. But you made me come alive. Now you breathe me back to life. Never have the words, I can't explain it. Every time I run, I know you're waiting. Everything you do, I can't contain it. You got me, giving all I got cause I know you're worth it. Giving all of me cause you deserve it. I want you to know I think you're perfect. You're perfect. Nothing matters, nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Nothing matters, nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. I've got you. You've got me. I've got you. You've got me. Nothing matters, nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Nothing matters, nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. I got you, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters now, ayy. 'Cause I got you, and nothing else matters now, ayy. Nothing else matters now, ayy. 'Cause I got you, nothing else matters now, ayy.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You've been so, so good to me.
Hey, when I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Oh, you've been so, so kind to me. Yeah. Oh, the overwhelming, never shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me.
There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me.
There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me.
There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me.
Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Good evening and welcome to Who Wants to Be Billionaire? I'm your host. Wait, that's next topic. Sorry guys, wrong show. Tune in. But good evening and welcome to our third and final event for the month of mental health awareness. Crazy, right? How quick this month has flown by. I hope everyone has been keeping up with the activities each week that we're posting in the chat, and I hope no one has put that chat on mute. I can see 𝘱𝘁𝘦𝘴𝘵 practicing his yoga moves. One of the things I did this month was pick up a physical book to start reading and get off my phone. I think the last time I did that was back in high school. And now also being able to join for our morning prayers with 𝗧𝗏, it's been a pretty awesome month. It's been pretty eventful too. We started off with Shed the Light, where we had our incredible conversation with our beloved bishop, where we shared our thoughts, our perspectives about our mental well-being in regards to our faith, our social life, family, uni, work. It was an event and we had a lot of fun as well. I remember there was a special game and I've still got something pink, a frozen parota, some fresh air fresheners as well. For those of you that joined, you know what I'm talking about. We also had our second event, which was Delve into the Wonder of Your Mind with Dr. Priya, which was an amazing session discussing how to maintain mental health under stress and the faith perspective on that as well. Now, in our first event, one of the main concerns of our youth was that we didn't know who we could talk to. We didn't know who we could ask questions, who we could approach in regards to our mental well-being. So that's why on this live platform, we're going to answer your questions with our expert Q&A panel. Now, you can ask these questions completely anonymously if you like. Otherwise, feel free to use the chat box below as we go through the event. And please don't feel like there's any dumb questions. It's like in class and you don't understand something and the teacher says, any questions? And you wait for that smart kid to ask the first questions and they're like, oh yes, I had that same question too. Look, the reality is if you have a question, someone's probably got the exact same thing in their mind. So go for gold. We all learn together as we are asking these questions. Also keep in mind, we will maintain the confidentiality of your questions and keep it anonymous as well. So don't be afraid. Just some quick housekeeping. This event is streaming live on our platforms and our recording will be posted on our YouTube channel at the end. So if you know anyone that has missed out, feel free to share and they can always catch up in their own time. Your active participation is essential for the success of this event. So please join in. All right, so before we get started, let's just get into the right headspace with a quick prayer. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to have an open discussion about a challenge that is impacting all our lives right now. We ask that you send your Holy Spirit to fill the hearts and minds of our panelists today so that they might inspire and speak directly to our hearts. Help them to say what you want us to hear. Lord God, give us the wisdom and understanding to hear out our panelists today as they answer our questions, so that we help not only ourselves, but our greater community as well. Mother Mary, we ask for your intercession during this time. We ask that you protect our youth around the world, You nurture them, you help them grow, and you guide them to your Son, Jesus Christ. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Alrighty, so I'm going to hand it over to 𝘱𝗵𝗶𝗶. Now, 𝘱𝗵𝗶𝗶 is a passionate 𝘧𝗵𝗶 Catholic, husband and father of 2 young boys, hailing from Melbourne Cathedral Parish. Can I hear a woo woo from Melbourne? He is the Pastoral Council Secretary for our 𝘵𝗵𝗵 and the National Training Coordinator of our Professional Standards Division. He's a specialist clinician in mental health and substance use disorders and has a wealth of knowledge from his experience across various countries. His experience and areas of expertise are addiction and emergency mental health, especially in young adults and the youth. Now, 𝘱𝗵𝗶𝗶 will introduce our panelists today, and he'll also be our moderator for the evening. So he'll be the one passing on your live questions to our panelists. So without further ado, 𝘱𝗵𝗶𝗶, take it away.
I'm really sorry for the technical difficulties. Thank you, Arvind, for the wonderful introduction. My screen actually gone frozen, so I had to really rejoin. Hello and welcome to Thinking Out Loud. I express my gratitude to SMYM Australia for hosting this important event as part of the Mental Health Awareness Month. So I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we gather today. I pay my respect to the elders, past, present, and emerging. Today I'll be asking questions on behalf of our young audience to 4 subject panelists from mental health and welfare sector. So we are going to be focusing on areas that promote good mental health and well-being. We'll have time until 8:20 Australian Eastern Standard Time to cover our questions. So our initial focus will be on questions you have already sent through from various SMYM events throughout the month. However, you feel free to post your questions in the Q&A box as we go along. So the discussion today may trigger some unpleasant feeling for someone. So if you need any emergency assistance, call 000, or if you like to speak to someone urgently, call Lifeline on 131114, 131114. That will be on the Q&A box, the chat box. The panel discussion is offering a very general advice only. So if you need any specific help according to your situation, you may contact your GP or other health professionals. So I have the privilege to present to you our panelists for today. So I go with the younger one. So we got Christin Mathew. So Christin is a 26-year-old cradle Catholic from St. Alphonsus 𝘧𝗵𝗶 Parish in Townsville, North Queensland. Christin has been living in Townsville for the past 12 years with his parents, brother and sister. On completion of high school, graduated from James Cook University in Townsville, majoring in mental health nursing in 2014. Currently working as a clinical nurse consultant for rural and remote mental health service group in Townsville Hospital, with the general adult psychiatry being his specialty. Outside of work, Christin enjoys living in North Queensland, spending time with his family and friends, and love exploring the stunning landscapes. Welcome, Christin. Now I have the privilege of introducing Sebastian. Benny is a mental health clinician who works for the Public Mental Health Service in Victoria with over 20 years of experience in adult psychiatry. He has worked in India, New Zealand, and in Australia. Benny is from Cathedral Parish, Melbourne, and he is also the National Safeguarding Officer of our 𝘵𝗂𝘁. Benny's other areas of interest include safeguarding children and young families and promoting your mental health. Benny holds a master's degree in social work, a Bachelor of Law and Human Resources. Welcome, Benny. Our next panelist is Dr. Cyriac Mathew. Dr. Cyriac is a senior consultant psychiatrist with more than 30 years of experience. He was awarded MD in psychiatry by Dr. MGR Medical University in India in 1997 and received the fellowship of Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists in 2007. Currently, he is the clinical director of Newcastle Mental Health Service and conjoint senior lecturer, University of Newcastle. He is actively involved in the training and supervision of undergraduate medical students, postgraduate trainees in psychiatry, in addition to teaching the allied health staff. He is an active member of 𝘬𝗵𝗶 Mission Newcastle. Welcome, Dr. Cyriac. The next one I am introducing is 𝘧𝘵 Teresa. 𝘧𝘵 is a senior social worker and counselor based in Sydney. 𝘧𝘵 holds a number of portfolios, including eparchial director of Professional Standards Division and Safeguarding Children. 𝘧𝘵 has been engaging in various fields of social work practice for more than 30 years, primarily in child and family sector, including child protection, domestic violence, and briefly in youth health, child and adolescent mental health. 𝘧𝘵 is an approved counselor with the Victim Services New South Wales and a social worker and family counselor in private practice, offering counseling for individuals and families. 𝘧𝘵 offers counseling for a range of issues, including trauma, relationship difficulties, family problems, parenting issues, and victim support. 𝘧𝘵 also is a sessional field academic, workplace learning and social work, and human services at Charles Sturt University. Welcome, 𝘧𝘵, to the program. So now we have all the panelists here. So we're going to be talking about mental health today, as Arvin already introduced. So mental health and well-being are always vital to everyone. So it's not just the absence of our ill health. Just like our physical health, our mental health also requires regular attention. So I'm going to be asking all our panelists what mental health means for you. So I'll start with Dr. Cyriac. Dr. Cyriac, can you tell us what does mental health mean for you? Unmute, please.
So there are many factors that will determine somebody's mental health. But among the various factors, I think the most important being your ability to manage day-to-day challenges and stresses in life. There are some people, whenever something goes wrong, even to the extent of somebody made a bad comment is enough for them to be dysfunctional, at least for a day. But if you are a mentally healthy person, you're able to acknowledge, adjust, and to be flexible and be a healthy way, cope with the situation.
Thank you, Dr. Cyriac. That's really great. So let's ask Christian, what does mental health means for you?
So basically for me, what mental health means is looking after yourself. So self-care activities that we can do to make sure that we're not stressed out and worried all the time. So we can always be ready for the next thing that's going to happen in your life, because life is always going to throw us issues one after another. So it's all about self-care, looking after yourself. That's what mental health means for me.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Christian. So let's talk to 𝘧𝘵. 𝘧𝘵, what does mental health means for you?
For me, mental health means enjoying myself and the world around me, including I really mean self-love for myself and also self-care. So if I'm happy and if I love myself, I think I can love other people around me. And that's mental health for me.
All right, self-care and self-love, some interesting concepts coming already out here. Thank you, Lizzie. Let's ask Benny Sebastian. Benny, what does mental health means for you?
Thank you, 𝘱𝗶. I agree with everyone regarding they said about mental health. And mental health is it's a very commonly discussed in the social media and in everyday life actually. And when you say mental health, often it means what is mental illness also means. It's because people define it in different ways actually. I feel that is mental health is, when you are able to function normally, when you are able to give back to your community and your family, when you are able to enjoy your life, these all are the matters that actually affects your mental health. So when you are functioning well, you will be having good mental health and you will be able to give back to the community, your family, your people, and also be kind to yourself.
All right, that's really good. So in summary, basically, so if you look at all the panelists, what they're saying is, so we need the coping mechanisms, we need self-love, we need, kind of functioning so that we can actually contribute to the community. We need to actually enjoy life, something going around us. So this leads us rightly into the things which, promote mental health and well-being. So we're going to be looking at the 3 pillars of mental health, including the prevention, promoting positive mental health, addressing support for mental health conditions. So raising awareness and self-care is vital, as Christin rightly put it, promoting positive mental health. So let's talk about its importance. So Christin, can you tell us what is the connection between self-care and mental health? Mute.
Sorry, guys. So self-care basically means the things and the activities that we do to look after ourselves. So the way we see it, we need to put like a holistic approach to self-care. So looking after our physical, emotional, and mental well-being as well. So the best example I can give is, a couple of months ago, I had to move away from home for work, to work in a rural and remote community. And when I was away from home, I was basically isolated, pretty much like going into a lockdown in a very small community. I had to start from the scratch. So I had to look after myself really, really well because I was starting to feel the effects of being away from home. So I spoke to a couple of friends and they gave me really good ideas about making myself like a list of things to do, waking up in the morning, doing exercises, doing my prayers at the right time, then going to work, coming back, going for like a swim or something here in the outback, things like that. So it's different for every person. So we're all different. So basically there's no formula for self-care and it can change over time. So it's basically about identifying the right activities that we can do that will promote and support our well-being. And it's also an ongoing commitment. Like, if you go to gym once a month and then eat all the junk food that you want, it's not going to help us at all. So we need to stick to our plan and commit to look after ourselves. And that's how we help ourselves through the stressful times that we're going on. And especially in times like this, when we're going through lockdown and stuff, it's quite important. So when we look after ourselves through these activities and self-care, we're basically looking after our mental health. And then we will be able to help other people as well, because we are looking after ourselves and loving ourselves, like 𝘧𝗵𝗵 said earlier. Yeah, so that's self-care.
All right, sounds like a lot of self-discipline is needed to maintain our mental health. It also comes to the next question I'm going to be asking Benny. So Benny, how can our faith and spiritual routine? So Christin already mentioned about the importance of, routines, which can probably help. So faith and spiritual routines, how can it be used for promoting positive mental health?
Thank you, 𝘱𝗶. As we know that, we have not only our body, we have our mind and our soul. Now, when we say that we look after our body, you self-care, you exercise, you have enough food, medication, and everything else. And again, when we come for mind, we know that, how to look after the mind, again, self-care and other things. But we have also an important component, that's our soul. Now, all these factors are interrelated. Your spiritual life is also impacting your physical health and your mental health, you know. So we need to prioritize spiritual life, finding time for your spiritual activities. So having friends who are of the same spiritual values help you to have a good spiritual life. And also having, even spiritual holidays, because we have a lot of other holidays, but do we have time for retreats and spiritual exercises? And also, do we have, watch movies, spiritual movies? So this is all because we are focused on this today's world so much on physical activities, mental health, but there is another component to it, which is our spiritual life. So, in our day-to-day life, do we have time for a daily prayer? So the daily prayer should be the first thing in our life, actually, because we forget the spiritual aspect. We focus on the other thing. So schedule a time for your spiritual prayer, your prayer. So prayer means, let's say, if you are actually like first thing in the morning, get up, look after your hygiene and get fresh and have some quiet time with the Lord. Okay. So in that quiet time, when you say prayer, most people think, what do I pray? How do I pray? This is a simple thing that you can practice. Just sit in front of the Lord and just reflect about your past days and count your blessings, because often we don't think about how much blessing we have actually in day-to-day life. Make a list of blessings that we received in the other day, and then reflect how your yesterday was, anything that you could actually improve on, anybody that requires your forgiveness, and then just praying for everyone. And also then, just some time for reading gospel and reflection. So that will be your spiritual food for the whole day. And also you're with other friends who are actually, religious minded, or you have same goals. So by that, what is happening, it's in today's world, it's really hard to be focused on spirituality unless we have friends who are actually supporting. And again, someone with mental illness, we know they have so much anxiety, fear, social, they are isolated from everyone. When you look at the gospel, there are 365 times the Bible says, do not fear. So it's all about fear, how you focus on your spiritual life and a day-to-day life, and also link with your religious. And I forgot to mention, how do we practice in our sacramental life, spirituality and sacramental life, because, often we have confession, which is sort of underutilized in our community, because during confession, when you go for retreat and all, people go for confession and it gets such a healing for them actually. So we need to incorporate sacramental life in our day-to-day life. So it is the daily prayer and the sacramental life and being with the community, just to summarize, Joby.
All right, thank you, Benny. So it's all about, that the self-discipline, as Benny put it, and also reflection. So there's a lot of things we can actually learn from ourselves, and also having that gratitude. So Benny mentioned about the gratitude in his, ways which can actually positively influence our mental health. So let's look at the next aspects of mental health. So Dr. Cyriac, could you please talk about the science on how exercise and sleep impact on our mental health?
Yeah, start off with the exercise. Exercise can influence our mental health by many ways. And one of the theories that when you do exercise, it increases the blood flow to the brain. Certainly some areas like the limbic system, the amygdala and the hippocampus, which are very important in controlling your emotions, your behavior, and your memory. So, and also there is some theories that say that there is a release of serotonin and endorphins and cortisol, which all have impact on lifting your mood. So certainly these kind of chemical things are there in the background. But in addition, things like, when you go out, you enjoy the nature, you will have fresh air, you have sunlight. And in addition to that, there is a chance you'll be meeting people. So relationships and mixing with people are also important to improve your mental health. So all these factors will impact your mental health in a very positive way. In addition, when you do exercise, that also can have effect on your sleep, and better sleep also impact your exercise. It's a kind of vicious cycle you have. Unfortunately, the new generation, the sleep-wake cycle has really disturbed. And some people said that maybe in 10 years' time, the school starts at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because many youngsters get up only by midday because they are very active during the nighttime. But unfortunately, that is not a very healthy thing to do, because we have two things happening in our brain which control our sleep and wakefulness. One is an internal controller in our brain, and other one is controlled by our light and darkness. So that actually should go together. The darkness comes, the night comes, your brain will tell you this is time to take a rest, you should sleep. But unfortunately, we are trying to do the other way around. We are trying to be more active during the nighttime, which is we are fighting with the brain activities. So if anybody sleeps with the blinds down, you are in real trouble, because when you get up in the morning, your brain will not acknowledge where it is a light or dark, because it's always dark. So it's very important that you should either automatically the blind should go up by 7 o'clock, the light comes, or you should keep the blinds open in such a way that the light should come inside your bedroom so that the light will affect you. So if you are interested, there is a lot of articles on sleep hygiene, and you will get some tips what is the healthy sleep hygiene is about. And when you follow the sleep hygiene, the sleep improves. That also will impact your mental health, your ability to concentrate and work, so that they both are connected. So in short, sleep and exercise are very fundamental for positive mental health.
Thank you, Dr. Cyriac. So can you tell us, what's an average sleep, a night sleep our young people probably need for a healthy mind?
There is a lot of controversy there, but the general rule is that for an adult, 8 hours is a reasonably good sleep. But having said that, if you look at many successful people like, Joe Biden or Scott Morrison or Baby Benny, they work at least 18 hours in a day, so that they only sleep 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours, then only you can be successful. So if you can do that, go ahead. But healthy wise, 7 to 8 hours is a reasonably good sleep.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think that's definitely good for all of our audience as well as for ourselves to keep that in mind. Okay, so let's move on to Christin, and I'm going to be asking Christin about what is mindfulness and how it can be used in self-care.
So mindfulness basically means grounding ourselves to the present of what's happening to us right here, right now, and being aware of number thoughts and feelings without any distractions. So mindfulness is a grounding technique that we can use when we are worried or stressed out. And one of the things that I use is called look, listen, and feel. So if you're in a situation where you're a bit anxious or nervous, like I was a bit nervous about what's going to happen. I've never done the panel thing before, so obviously I was a bit anxious and nervous about it. So I did I was doing my look, listening, and feel phenomena that I always do when I'm in a nervous situation. So I look around my surrounding, make sure that everything's okay, everything's doing okay, and I have all the things that I need around me. And then I listen to what other people are saying. So I'm immersing myself into the situation, and then just feeling the air, breathing in and out. So sometimes, when you're in a situation, you can feel the air and how nervous it can be. So grounding ourselves in the right moment can absolutely help us to be stress-free. And it will also change the way we think about things. And it can also give us a new viewpoint and a perspective on how the situation should play out. And sometimes we can look at things from an outside perspective when we ground ourselves and immerse ourselves into the situation. So it's very important being mindful of our surroundings and looking after ourselves, especially when we are anxious and stressed. It's a good habit to get into.
Thank you, Christin. So let's all look, feel, and what was the other one? Listen. So that's very good.
Look, listen, and feel.
Look, listen, and feel. Excellent. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. So I'm going to be asking Benny a question about how we're going to create some work-life balance. So Benny, what are some simple practical tips for promoting work-life balance for our young people? Unmute, please.
Look, Jovi, thank you. It's a very interesting question, actually. It's not really applicable for young people. It's applicable for everyone. It's like budgeting your money. We all have a 24 hours, and how do we spend that 24 hours wisely? There are commitments that we can't ignore, like a job or work or study. For a person, normal person, 8 or 10 hours of life, he has no control over. Like you have to go to work, come back, and the transport and everything else actually take more than 10 hours of our life. And there are other things that we have to prioritize. So we have to be a good budgeter in terms of managing the time. So we have to prioritize, what is a priority for me may not be a priority for somebody else, actually. So it all depends upon who you are, actually. How do you prioritize? So having a good timetable, a timetable that will reflect what you need to be, it's like a good diet. You can't have just junk food only or just meat alone. So you need to have like a food pyramid. You need to have different component in your diet. In the same way, you have to have a priority, and you have to have in that time priority based on a good timetable. So the timetable will put how much control you have in your things. And also, once you prioritize, you also need to sometimes, when you say prioritize, we also need to say sometimes no to some things, no to some people, or some expectations. Okay, so sometimes it may be that you may not have time for your social media. Sometimes you may have restrict your social media. Sometimes you may not have that time to go with your friends. Things that you probably don't, you want to do. So it's all about prioritizing, and sometimes saying no, and then having a target. Sometimes when you have a target, and if you are not able to meet that target, you need to revisit your timetable, adjust your timetable accordingly, so that you can spend more time on something that you probably have missed out. Okay, so, and then again, be flexible. So with that plan in mind, what do I want to do in, this year, maybe 2 years time, especially young people when they're growing up, they have a lot of pressures, and it's easily, they can get easily distracted. And when they have this good timetable where they can prioritize these things, what they want to do, it's really going to help them, actually. And, and that will help them to motivate and follow some of the things, like you may have a friend who is highly successful in his life, and talk to him, talk to her, and see how he is prioritizing, how he's been able to do things differently. So learn from others, and also involve your parents, the persons who, mentors, people who are actually there to help you. Ask them, this is, I'm struggling, I can't prioritize, I'm working 24/7, but I'm not doing what I want to do. So check with other people how you can do things, because sometimes you don't have to invent the wheel. Someone has done it already. Just check with them. You have your friends, and this social media and all. These things are there for a purpose, actually. So check with your friends, connect with your friends, and prioritize. End of the day, you are the captain of your ship, and you need to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, then you need help.
Thank you, Benny. So a gentle reminder to our audience, your participation is so important for this webinar. So we are so eager to hear from you. So could you all please, use the chat box, Q&A box, and put your questions in, so to make it a bit more lively. So the questions we are answering are, I know the questions we already received from our young audience, but we love to hear from you. So please use the chat box again, the Q&A box. Okay, so when you mentioned about, this balance and having some real routines, getting some help from others, prioritizing things for, kind of promoting your mental health. So let's move on to the next area, which I'm going to be focusing on, a very important area. So let's look at that. So while many of us enjoy staying connected on social media, we are all familiar with that term, social media. multiple studies have found a strong link between heavy social media and increased risk of depression, anxiety, loneliness, self-harm, and even suicidal thoughts. So I'm going to be asking Christin, what are some signs to look out for to understand that social media affects our mental health?
So in terms of social media, everyone uses social media for different purposes, and we can use it for positive things as well as negative things. And there is no bad impact about the amount of time we actually spend on social media. Rather, what actually affects our mental health is the more time we spend on social media, what sort of aspects or things in your life it affects. So not the actual time, but spending the time on social media and then it's affecting your life. That's when it starts to take a toll on your mental health. So some indicators or some signs can be that spending more time on social media than with our real friends. So we are substituting our real friends to social media, offline interactions. Even when you're out with friends, you feel like you need to constantly check on your social media and having that FOMO, the fear of missing out, that maybe other people are having more fun than you and that you need to be involved with them on the social media, comparing yourself to what other people post, and then because that will contribute to low self-esteem and a negative body image about how we see ourselves. And sometimes when we become over-involved, we can get involved in cyberbullying and stuff, which can have a huge impact on our emotional well-being. Being distracted when you're at school or work, or even when you're with your parents, and stuff, you're checking your phone all the time. And it's a huge distraction for other people as well. And they're like, why are you not paying attention to what I'm saying? And over time, it takes a toll on everyone involved in your family and your friends as well. And your friends might even tell you about these things because they're starting to notice some of the changes that's happening. And then no time for self-reflection. We don't know about, and we feel pressured. So all of these are the signs that can impact us. And then, sleep is a big issue. Like if doctor, our sleep patterns are changing. We'll be staying up all night, messaging people or just checking through the Insta rolls and things like that. So it's a huge impact. And it's about finding the right balance for each person because we're all individualistic and it changes from people to people, basically.
Thank you, Christin. So that will lead to a question I'm going to be asking Benny. So what are some suggestions on modifying our social media, mobile and internet use, which can improve our mental health? So if you actually give a few tips for our audience, that'll be great, Benny.
Of course, 𝗀𝗶, we need to modify because we are living in this world that we can't live without internet, social media, all these platforms, and they are there for a reason. But how much we need, that's the most important thing. Of course, we live in this area that without internet, we can't live, we feel when we don't have a phone with us, when we don't have, when we don't have internet connection, people feel frustrated. People can live sometimes without air, I feel, and not without internet connection. So it's really frustrating, when you don't have, but how do you use it actually? From the internet, we have, so much resources available, like, we have Kids Helpline, Beyond Blue, all these websites, all this information is available actually through internet actually. And also we do, or online shopping and other things. So how can we really, in terms of practically use that, again, having a schedule, which are the websites that you want to use, especially being a student or even being at work, when we have so many apps open, especially these days when you are working from home, you have your phone on and you have Instagram open and you have Facebook open. So when you have all these apps open, you get really distracted and confused actually. You may be focusing on working something and it all needs just a notification from Instagram. You'll just check one message and that will just go for another 2 hours or so, and you only realize after that actually. So taking a break in between, like having, let's say, a break, make it a habit that you get out of your room every hour, take a fixed break, so you are not actually always on social media or any other stuff actually. And also we all have this habit of wandering actually, so if possible, disable some of those apps that actually you are not using actually. And also sometimes some of the devices tells you that how much time you have on social media and other things, so put restrictions on that actually. So you are, when you are sleeping, especially when some people, when they sleep, when they have a notification up, they just look at it, so in terms of sleep hygiene, they say that if you can actually turn off your, get away from your phone at least an hour before, it's really helpful. And also maybe it's not the first thing that actually check up actually, because most people when they get up, they don't look anyone in the family. The first thing they look at whether they have the phone right by their side and what the notifications are there actually. So if you can put some self-control and restraint, again, basically coming back to having that timetable and having it, of course, you need to have a balanced use. All these are the practical thing I can think of, Joby.
Thank you. So it's all about, having that self-control. It looks like, our lives are actually being taken over by this sort of media and technology, and we don't realize it sometimes. It's taking a lot of our time. It distracts us, it take away our really good quality time with our family members. Sometimes, we don't even know that we are actually on it. So what Benny is saying is, taking the time, break away from the social media or on the devices, having that quality time, maybe switching off the phone before going to sleep, all those things can definitely help with your mental health. So we got a question came up in the chat box. So I'm going to be asking our panelists. So a question came from someone that what is your most effective favorite practical tip for mental health? I wonder if Dr. Cyriac can maybe.
Yeah, I can try, but again, there is no single one answer to that. There is a multiple factors. But if you ask me, I will take the priority is you have a self-discipline and a routine and a structure in your life. If you have that, then life is going to be very successful. But sometimes what happens, there is no structure, there is no routine. Every day is different. That can cause problem. And the discipline is very important to me.
Excellent. So self-discipline is so important. I thought maybe we will probably ask another question, maybe related to social media and the addiction part of it, Dr. Cyriac. So can you please talk about the addiction to, let's say, anything like substances, internet or gaming, and how it can actually impact on mental health?
See, addiction is for everything is same. For example, addiction for alcohol or drugs or internet or pornography or mobile phone. The same principles apply. We have the urge to use it and we are unable to control that. And our life is completely preoccupied with those thoughts. For example, if I'm an alcoholic, as soon as I get up in the morning, my thoughts are, how do I get a bottle in the evening? Where do I going to drink it? What I am going to have it? Who is going to be with me? So all my thoughts are concentrated on that aspect. So I cannot think anything outside that. My life is completely controlled by that. Same thing with social media and mobile phone, where we are unable to live without that. And we suppose we wanted to stop it, but we cannot do it. That is why I remember I attended a conference a couple of years ago, and one of the youngsters talking about the mobile phone and internet addiction. And one of the method or simple technique they suggested is that you have to keep your mobile phone away minimum 2 hours locked in a cupboard and give the key to somebody else, so that you have no way take that phone at least for 2 hours, which give you some kind of a control. You can live without that, so that you don't have to depend on that all the time. Same thing with any addiction. So as much as you can control, then things are going to be easy. But when they become addicted, that control is being lost. And although in the morning we get up in the morning and say, I am not going to drink this today, But when the evening comes, I cannot control that I drink again. Same thing. I don't want to use the mobile phone today for 2 hours, but the time comes, I cannot withstand. I become anxious. I become worried. I'm tempted to do that. So you are able to control. That control comes. Addiction becomes easy to manage.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I remember, the previous session with Dr. Priya, she actually mentioned about the importance of, the brain's control mechanisms, and, you actually practice that with neuroplasticity and how it can actually help you. So it sounds like, what Dr. Cyriac is saying is similar thing. You probably need to consciously break away and take control of yourself so that your brain is actually in control. You take away the urge out of you so that you are actually practicing some tips, so you are actually not being driven out by games or social media or substances, so which is good, so which can definitely positively impact on our health, including mental health and physical health. So research suggests that people with very strong supportive relationships live healthier and longer life. So I'm asking 𝘱𝘂 this question. So 𝘱𝘂, how would you build a healthy relationship to foster our mental health and well-being?
Thank you, 𝘱𝘗𝘵. It's a very interesting question because healthy relationships and our well-being are interconnected. So throughout our life, the number and strength of our relationships affect our mental health and physical well-being. So there are several factors that contribute to healthy relationships and our well-being, including individual factors like, firstly, we need to think about, as I said before, we need to love ourselves to love others. So self-love is a major factor in our life, and you must be comfortable with yourself in order to feel comfortable with others. So it is important to reflect on whether do you love yourself and what does it look like and how do you know you love yourself. So it is important to reflect on those factors. In my understanding, self-love can mean many different things, but it boils down to feeling good about yourself. Even if there are moments when you are disappointed, self-love is all about building your self-esteem and self-image. So why I'm saying this is because if you don't value yourself, if you don't love yourself, if you don't see yourself as a true person, then how do you love or how do you create a good relationship with another person? And that's something important for us to reflect on. Secondly, I would like to recommend that we need to get comfortable with ourselves as we are. So are you comfortable with yourself as you are? Are you able to accept yourself as you are? And are you able to be nice to yourself? And are you able to build comfort with yourself? So these are some of the questions we need to ask ourselves before we start considering how to do a healthy relationship with other people, because all these factors will be influencing how we behave, how we feel, how we are around other people. So another important factor is our ability to develop and maintain social connections. So the benefit of social connection and good mental health are numerous. So the research shows that if we have social connectedness and if we are not isolated, there will be lower rates of anxiety and depression, higher self-esteem, greater empathy, and more trusting and cooperative relationships. So strong, healthy relationships can also help to strengthen your immune system, help you recover from disease, and may even lengthen your life. And this is through the research studies. The researchers found all these in terms of healthy relationship and our well-being. So the good news is that while many of these benefits can make you happier and more contented, there is also a flow-on effect whereby people around you will want to spend time with you. Isn't that wonderful if everyone wants to spend time with us? In this way, social connectedness generates a positive feedback loop of social, emotional, and physical well-being. So what does it look like to have meaningful relationships? And that's the important factor for us. So in order to have meaningful relationship, we need to have good interpersonal skills such as empathy, show deep listening skills, genuine validation of others, whether they are bad, sad, or crazy, angry, anything, and accurately responding to another person's emotional cues. So are we able to do that? Then that shows we have good interpersonal skills and we'll have good social connectedness and emotional connectedness to people around us. If a relationship is important to you, how much time do you spend consciously practicing the relational dynamics that could potentially make those relationships better? Are we making a conscious effort in our life? Are you deliberately practicing substantive relationship skills in the same way that like a concert pianist diligently works to memorize and perfect a new composition? So basically, the relationship or healthy relationship, if we need a good, healthy relationship, we need to work for it. So are you intentionally curious about their life, listening deeply to understand their inner struggles and joys of people around you so that you are keen and you really mean healthy relationship is in your agenda? Every relationship is to nurture and grow. If there is no nurturing, it will become unhealthy. So basically, how do we grow relationship? To grow a relationship, it is important to spend quality time together, practice deep listening, show genuine unconditional love, accept them as a person, understand others' needs and emotions, trust, respect everyone around you, nurture spiritual life, planned family time such as dinner time or any other special occasions, open communication, and practice emotional intelligence. So these are some of the key factors that will support grow a healthy relationship.
Okay, so sounds like, there's a number of points there. Lizzie mentioned about, having that time and empathy and listening and nurturing the relationship and also having that self-love. I'm still stuck with that statement, unless you actually love yourself, it's very hard for you to love other people. I think it's sounds like quite psychological, but, I think it's a very practical thing we probably need to look at and see how we can do that. And, if we got issues around our image, obviously, where we can get help, there's a lot of number of supports and services available out there for our young people these days. So I'm going to be asking Christian a question. Christian, what are some simple tips to bring up conversations about mental health with the parents and friends? I know that especially in the community we actually come from, there's a taboo and, there is some sort of, people are not probably open about their mental health. So how can we start this kind of a normal conversation? For example, like, I have a fever, I have a sore throat, I go and tell your mom and dad, oh, I'm not feeling good, and they take care of you. Whereas if you got feeling down and drained, you often, you don't feel like, not talking to them, and you think, what's the point? They don't even understand it. So how can we do that, Kristen?
So I think, what young people think is that, parents and all, they come from a different background, a different timeline. So sometimes, we don't feel as connected to them as we feel connected to a number of friends and stuff. So, and parents, we don't often see our parents looking after themselves and having and giving that self-love that 𝗀𝗍𝗍 was talking about earlier, like we try to do with ourselves. So we don't feel comfortable in talking to them. But as human beings, we are all social animals. So we're meant to be communicating with each other and sharing our issues and stuff and looking out for each other, basically. So when you know someone really well and you spend time with them, you'll obviously be picking up on cues that things are not going very well for them. So pick the right time. So don't ask them how they're going or what's happening in their life with a group of people. Pick the right time that's actually private, where you both are alone, and maybe ask them, I know there's a lot of things going on for you at the moment. How are you managing? So that may be a good way to start the conversation. And sometimes, people may not even be comfortable in asking that question. That's probably because of our fear about what they will think. The person might not open to us the first time because they will be worried about putting their burden on us. Why waste your time? Why should I tell you all of these things? Will be a burden for you. Actually, when we ask them the question, we are showing them that there is someone that cares for them and that we are ready to be listening to what is going on. And it's not about giving advice to them about to do things. It's just about being there for them and supporting them through what is going on. And even if they won't tell you things, they might even reflect on what you asked them. And they might go home and then think about it. And they'll be like, oh yeah, there is a lot going on. Maybe I should talk to someone. I can't do this on my own. So picking the right moment and asking them, is everything going okay? What's going on? Things like that, just that normal, genuine things. And that's how you keep the conversation going and ask them if they're actually going okay.
So that sounds like a very, very normal kind of conversations, we can bring up with our loved ones, which can actually open up this sort of conversation. So that's a really good one. So as a question came from the audience, I'm going to be asking Dr. Cyriac to answer this one. So what are some simple ways to improve self-discipline?
Yes, again, there is no simple solution to that. It is something difficult, and that's why what we learn from our childhood is going to be important. For example, if you ask my life, every evening 7 o'clock, my father will say, "Come, your prayer," and then 7 o'clock the prayer. After the prayer, family dinner together. So that is every day. Whatever be the circumstances, whoever the guest is there, that's not going to change. So that was the discipline taught me by my parents when I was young, and that is something we have to try again. And it should come from the discipline at home, then the discipline at the school and the college, and then the workplace and in your social gathering. So that's again, you have to learn, try and work it out. But it is only possible by a collective experience. It's not possible for one person to start doing that, but everybody has to be aware of the importance of that, and we have to start again. There is no simple magic behind that. It is really hard work.
Okay, so I think that will rightly into the next question to 𝗬𝘂 I'm going to be asking. So what are some tips to get away from peer pressure and negative attachments with some people? You might think, they may not be a good influence in your life. So how do we do that, 𝗬𝘂?
Thank you, Joby. Negative peer pressure can take a toll on our mental health. So when we start behaving in ways that undermine our core values, our self-esteem suffers. And we may start feeling like we are losing control over ourselves and our life. When this happens, when we fall into negative peer pressure, we can easily start making more poor choices that will further negatively affect us, physically and mentally. So spend time with people who lift you up and not who bring you down. So it is easy to say, sometimes it is not that easy to do. So examples of negative peer pressure would be drinking excessively despite not enjoying it. It could be anything, any kind of addictive behaviors, or maybe people trying to live a life that someone who makes way more money than you do, and anything. So constant comparison by peer or somebody who is in that kind of a level is going to be a negative impact on people. So how do we handle that? So handling negative peer pressure can be a struggle because none of these tasks are easy. As Dr. Cyriac said, it all depends on our self-discipline and how much coping skills we have in terms of dealing with these kind of issues. However, there are multiple ways to resist it so that we can enjoy our life. So again, what we need to remember is we need to stay true to ourselves and our core values so that we don't fall into this kind of negative peer pressure or issues. We may feel guilt or shame at the beginning of resisting negative peer pressure, but stay strong through it and remember your core values. You do not need to change just to fit in with the group of people you're usually hanging out with, because it's not going to be really helpful if we start doing that. If we become too flexible and if we can't say no, then there are chances that we will fall into those traps. It is important to have a wide range of friends. So not just one or two, but it depends on people's circumstances as well. We need to understand that. So we need to develop relationships with others from different backgrounds and are outside of our main friendship groups. So we have a wide range of friendship group or acquaintances or workmates or unimates who will be able to help us positively. Disregard what the critics say when you are acting in a way that represents your true self, because there will be people who will be critical about things all the time or sometimes, or there may be friends who are really good friends, but sometimes there will be negative peer pressure from them. Make a plan ahead of time if you know you will be in a situation where peer pressure can be anticipated, and make sure you have an exit strategy if the peer pressure becomes too much for you to handle. Make sure you find people who support your values. Let go of the relationships that negatively affect you and make you feel like you must change your core values. So this is an impact of negative peer pressure. So basically, sometimes we tend to think about, oh no, this is my value system, but I may have to change this in order to fit in with the group. Be assertive and be mindful and surround yourself with positive, uplifting people who appreciate you, your idea, your lifestyle, and your choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie. That's great. So we got a lot of ideas. So, but it's all about, having that core value and, making sure that you're assertive enough. And if you say, there are people who you think, they are probably influencing you and, you need to say no wherever you need to. So that's very important. So that's good. So I'm going to be asking now a question to Benny. So Benny, how can we look out for and effectively support our friends or family members' mental health? So we mentioned about peer pressure and negative influences. So if we got somebody, let's say, family members or someone else, how do we actually effectively look out for them?
Thank you, 𝗫𝗵𝗵. Look, first of all, let me say that having a mental health problem or mental health issue, it's not anybody's fault. It's like any other physical illness. There is so much stigma about mental illness. Even when it's not being identified in par with any physical illness. If you have a running nose, if you have a cold or a headache, people are open to tell others that, I'm feeling sick, I've got cold, sore or anything. But when you are depressed, when you are low, you don't want to tell anybody because of the stigma. It's really a tricky thing to help people. And in saying another thing, people with mental illness, they have achieved, sometimes people say, oh, somebody has got a mental illness, is not a intelligent person, is not an effective. When you look at the history, Abraham Lincoln, Isaac Newton, Winston Churchill, all these people have mental illness. Many celebrities have mental illness. So giving help is really important in terms of getting, reaching their full potential. And having mental illness is sometimes, it may be lifelong, but that doesn't mean that you can't function normally. It's like diabetes. If you have diabetes, you take medication, you can have a successful normal life. So mental illness is actually, and also it varies again, you see. There are different forms of mental illness, but unfortunately it's all being treated at the same time. Now, how do we reach out to somebody who's got a mental illness? As I said in the beginning, it's very private because of the stigma. Parents are not aware of it. Sometimes you don't want to talk to your parents about it because they are judgmental about it. You don't want to talk to your friends about it. So if you see somebody has got some concern, be available to that person, fully, without many. Sometimes you can listen to people with your phone on, you're interacting with other people, pay full attention to such people, and let them share as much as they want with you, So sometimes, if time constraint, you are you want to ask them questions, it's okay to ask them questions, but again, it's their time. Make that time available to them. And talk about their well-being, how they are feeling, how they're managing their day-to-day business, and listen carefully to them, not being judgmental, and directing them to the right help is really important, actually. Once because we are not mental health professionals. When you are not a mental health professional, it probably is difficult for you to navigate where that person needs to get help from. And also, you don't need to diagnose somebody when people are telling about their difficulty. You are there as a friend or a family member. You are not there to diagnose the people. And later on, see how they go. If somebody has told you, if you have linked them up with appropriate services, and later on see how they go. And especially when somebody is telling you, if they are having suicidal thoughts, or if they have plans to harm themselves, be open with that, actually, because sometimes people feel what they will feel if I ask them about suicide. But someone who has thought about suicide has thought about it many times. So it's not because you mentioned it, they are saying it, actually. So in fact, when you mention that, you're validating it, actually. And then make a safety plan with that person. Okay, what is your plan? What do you want to do, in terms of helping? Because these are real things I'm talking about. Someone is going through that journey. So talk to them about what they are going to do, and if they have any means or weapons, or like medication or anything, make a plan to take that away. And then if you think it's really an emergency, please do call the 𝗵𝗶𝗶 so that they can be taken to the hospital, and otherwise contact a triage. And also, when you discuss with these people about their planned suicide ideation, tell them that you are taking it to the next level, because this is the only way that you can get help. And suicide is not a solution to anything. There is help. There is better way of dealing with the life's problems. And also, there is immense online resources available, like Kids Helpline, Beyond Blue, Suicide Helpline. There are so many telephone or apps that you can actually link people with, actually. So this is a combination of things. Again, you are not a professional, and it's too much sometimes to talk to someone who is going through that mental health journey. So you also need to look after yourself while you are helping out to somebody.
Okay, thank you, Benny. Sorry, I got to go through this few more number of questions to finish off. We only got another, I think, 7 minutes to go. So I really wanted to probably go through the next question, very important question. So worrying, feeling anxious, and getting stressed sometimes can be part of our busy lives. So Dr. Cyriac, can you please tell us about anxiety disorders and when to actually seek professional help?
So again, anxiety and depression is a very big topic to cover. So time is running out. So I just couple of important points to mention. One is that we all feel anxious. That is part of our human life. But the extent of and the severity of the symptoms which will impact your mental health is going to be the key. Suppose, it is stopping you from functional, then there is a problem. So there is a chance, we all worry about everything, when you start in the morning, whether I'll be able to reach the workplace safely, whether I'll have an accident, whether I'll pass the exam, whether I'll be healthy tomorrow. So also I'll get a job, or I'll get a money. So all sorts of worries we have, but when it becomes too much, it's an issue. But when Benny said in the very beginning, the best treatment of anxiety is the Bible. There are so many places Bible tells you, you don't have to worry about anything. I will look after you. If you have faith in God, and if you proceed that way, nothing is going to touch you. Whatever anxiety comes, you can say, it is God's will. I accept it. Don't have to worry about that. The same thing with the social anxiety, where we have a problem in meeting people, talking to people, where you feel a bit shy, whether I'll make some stupid things, I make some silly things, so I will avoid talking to people. That can cause significant lack of self-esteem and then going into depression and suicidality. There again, what all we have is God's gift. You just take it and accept it, and then there won't be any problem at all. That is an easy answer. Just a couple of things before I complete from Benny's point of view about how you help other people. So the most important thing in helping other people is the relationship you have. If you have a very good, strong relationship, you trust that person, you will open up everything you have. But if the relationship is not good, you're not going to answer that question. So to bring the relationship, as Lizzie said, empathy is going to be the key. And then your willingness to ask them, are you okay? If you ask genuinely that question, if you trust, they will tell you what the issues are. But on the downside, the problem is that if a person calling you every time there is a problem, that's again an issue. They will contact you every time, every day, then every other day, I have an issue, can you help me? That is going to increase the dependency. That is going to be stressful for the person who is going to help. So there should be a boundary where we can be helpful, but to some level, they have to take some responsibility of themselves, how to help themselves.
Thank you, doctor. So maybe you can actually elaborate on depression as well. You already mentioned about anxiety. So, we often use the word, when we're feeling sad or up and down, we say, oh, I'm feeling depressed. So what is actually, clinical depression, and what sort of help we probably need?
Yeah, there is two main things. One is that, there is a reaction to day-to-day events. For example, suppose you fail an exam, or somebody made a bad comment about you. You feel a bit upset, and then you're a bit sad, you're crying, and then, but next day you'll be back to normal again. But when the symptoms continue for more than 2 weeks, where you can't sleep, you can't eat, you feel sad, you are unable to function well, you can't concentrate, you're thinking about hopeless and suicidality, then it becomes a disorder where you need treatment. But the danger is that sometimes this depression can be triggered by an event. Sometimes we mistake it as, okay, it's a reaction to that, so that we don't have to worry about it, it will settle by itself. But that is not always the case. There are some events can precipitate a depressive disorder where that need its own treatment. And if you don't do that, that can cause into complication, and suicide is the most serious risk of untreated depression. But normally, day-to-day, small things, we have an issue, we talk to somebody, we pray, share with another person, things settle down. That is not a reaction, that is not a disorder, but that continues, persists, affect our functioning, that becomes a disorder. That need to be careful and need special treatment.
Excellent. So, we all need to kind of open up about our, maybe our mental health, and having that open conversation and make it so real and open. And there is somebody who is listening for you as well. And then obviously, if there are symptoms, as doctor mentioned, for more than 2 weeks, always feel free to ask questions. So I'm going to be probably concluding the questions here, given we don't have any more questions from the audience. So a big thank you to our audience. You had some really very interesting questions. And also, our panelists, you've been very, very active and, very, very, up to the point. You actually engaged the audience. And also SMYM Australia for this opportunity. I think this is probably one of those events where we gave the opportunity for our young people to come up and, openly ask questions. So in the chat box, we are going to be putting up some resources. So there are some resources which will give you more information. We only had, 1 hour to probably look out and talk about this important topic. So there is a lot more information available out there. So there is a website called Mood Gym, which will be, you will be seeing in the, the chat box, and also this way up. So these are some tools which can help you definitely to take care of your mental health and well-being, as well as if you need help, feel free to confidentially ask some questions on these, these support lines. So let us all stay safe, stay healthy, and be kind to ourselves. So may God bless all of you young people of Australia. Thank you from all of us, from the panel, and over to you, Avin.
Thanks for that, 𝘱𝗵𝘀𝘶. That was such an insightful discussion. Just some key points that struck out to me. You might want to jot this down if you want. Taking a holistic approach to mental health. It's not all about the gym gains. It's also about looking after your mind and your soul. Self-discipline and reflection is pivotal to finding the time to develop good spiritual routines. Also changing our perspective, whether that is changing who you're talking to, changing our environment, changing our mindset, it's all essential. 𝘨𝘂𝘁𝗂𝘀𝗏 also talked about the importance of self-love in order to love others. To share the love of Jesus, we need to be able to experience that love ourselves. We also learned about how important sleep is. For all those night owls out there, I think it's time to put that phone away a bit early tonight and maybe have a quick read of the Bible before you go to bed. And then in the morning, instead of jumping on Instagram Reels or Justin Chadden the TikTok, join in with our fam for supper prayers, every morning at 6 a.m. And it develops that routine for you. And you can even hear our missionaries sing. Also, I think the only FOMO you'll have at the moment is missing out on I Pray, which runs every Thursday at 9 p.m. So don't miss out. Now, we want to give a special thank you to our panelists who have taken the time out of their busy days to share their thoughts with us. So thank you, 𝘱𝗫𝘀𝘶, Christin, Dr. Cyriac, 𝘨𝘂𝘁𝘂𝘁, and also to our moderator who helped guide the process tonight. 𝘱𝗵𝘀𝘀𝘶, thank you. And finally, a quick thank you to everyone who has been behind the scenes running these events. I, for one, know that I've learned quite a bit. So just a quick reminder, guys, that this session will be posted on our YouTube channel. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Notification bell 𝘊𝑒𝑑𝑐𝑐 𝑝𝑜𝑡𝑖𝑐𝑜 so you're notified when we post our next video. We have some exciting events coming up very soon, so you definitely do not want to miss out on that. But before we end the night, let's take a quick moment to reflect and finish off with a prayer. Father God, thank you. Thank you for the countless blessings you have given us. Teach us to love ourselves as you love us unconditionally. Empower us to spend our time wisely with our family, with our friends, and especially in silence with you. We ask for the protection of Saint Michael the Archangel so that we may exercise discipline in our lives. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast down into hell Satan and all other evil spirits who prowl through the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you once again for your participation tonight and for being with us on this journey. It's been an amazing month with a lot of events that we've run, and please keep an eye out for a feedback form that will be coming up soon. So there'll be a QR code that will be put up, and you can give us some feedback on these events, what you want to see next, or some feedback that we can improve. So please fill it out as soon as possible. This is not the end. This is the beginning. So from all of us here at SMYM Australia, good night and God bless.
Every day I've been feeling the pressure. I always gotta know the plan. It's a weight that I've tried to shoulder. I thought I could, but I can't. And I'm so tired of chasing dreams when I am wired to let you lead. You're changing my heart. I get so tired of my own dreams, when I am wired to let you leave. You're changing my